What's up, my niggas? If you haven't subscribed to my backup channel, this be a good time. YouTube's liable to cut me out for this because they can't stand the truth. But when I say niggus, I mean
Niggus.
Is the ancient Ge'ez word. This means the Ethiopian language, Ge'ez, the Niggus, the king, the ruler, the ruling family, Niggus. And so it's just spelt with the Semitic, the NGS. They add all the vowels, however. But this is going to be fairly vulgar because I'm going to be reading out of this ancient Egyptian script, the Vulgate. And these other two Vulgates, the Greek Bible that they were tainted with the blood in. And the Hebrew, which is the most vulgar. In the streets, they have defiled themselves with the blood. Is the bitch what a nigga loved them. So I'm white. People would call me white. In the summer, I get about this color here. My ass is still white as this, but I get a little darker than some of my black friends in the summer. And if somebody told me that there was some color on my father's side of the family, and my mama's side of the family come from Quebec, and they are all this white. And my father's side coming from around Lake Charles, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody told me that I had a little color in my blood, because we all got some ass on that side. So this is in the Hebrew Bible, and it's explaining this as niggus, as Hebrew, and as emollient. In all this book of Lamentations, there's just these 5 chapters, and they either have 22 or 66 lines in them. And it's because it's all in alphabetical order. And so this is the N's, comes right after the M's here. And so the N is the 14th letter. And so this will start with the N, the same as the next one starts with the S, the 15th letter. This is now, overum. This is your word for Hebrews, the ovary. Hebrews are women. The men cannot be Hebrews. It's now the ovaries, the overum, I am. The Hebrews were in charge over. They were never slaves. And now ovaries, a bitch, what nigga loved inlay, yokel, ego of lavish them. An ego is what causes you to have gold teeth, to lavish. And so the clue, and to a clue of the ego of ego of lavish make them. And so you can tell, and now the ovarium of a bitch, what a nigga loved. The king loved them, and he gives them presents and nice clothes and lavish them. And so what they're saying, in the Boone language is the bitch, what the nigga loved them. In the King James language, that would be in the streets, they have defiled themselves with the blood. And you can see in this, the NGA, the nigga, and LU is it, he, she, or it. The nigga, it, and bed, BD, the bedum. And then loved them is it, bedum, LUVDM. Loved them is it, bedum. She bedum, he bedum, it bedum. Nigga loved them. And you can see in the Greek here, the last one, the 13th, was the mem, the memets, and then the 14th was the noun. So when you're hunting ducks, you're in the duck blind, and so it's for a no, N-O, and then a V-O-U-R-I-M, a novorum. So you can't see a vor. That would be like the French, a voyeur, to vor, to see them. And to novorum is in the duck blind. And novorum, the bitch what's what. And so this is coming from the Exodus. In the Hebrew, the Exodus is an eviction. And it's usually spelt with the E instead of the H here. But it's the bitch what's what a nigga loved them. The one that is creating the emollient. They were tainted with the blood. And knowing the sale, who this on, the youth is on, he. This OI reads as a E, and so you have two E's here. It's a he, a Gregory. The man is the Gregory. Gregory is the word for watchman. And the Gregory is the Igra and the gory. Like the category is the details about it. The gory is in the details. And the Igra gory of this in the days, Days, the day of sex, S-E-X-odus, the sexodus, or the days of Exodus, to evict, to get out, out in the street, exo, out. And the O-I here reading as an E, D-E-S, the Exodus. Emollient is saving. The N followed by the E reads as a V, a bet, a B or a V. And the emollient saving, emollient, emollient, having the quality of softening or soothing the skin. The family's getting a little bit too black. Let's get some of them Hebrew women in here to emollient, a preparation that softens the skin. So it has everything to do with the skin, soothing the skin. And so the bitch what's what a nigga loved them, the children come out as the emollient that softens the skin, and they were tainted with the blood. That's King James there, and in the streets they have defiled themselves with the blood. Because in those days, be in the day, they're missing there. And the men of Israel were niggas. And so the men of Israel, the ways, and read it backwards, of Lars. Lars means I fought and won the crown. Lars, won the crown of laurels, where that come from. Lars fought and won the crown. And Lars is rule. Whoever's ruling fought and won. And so in those days, it was, and the ways Lars is rule, niggas buy 'em. And so this isn't actually in the day, but it's Hayim is its pastime, and this is Bayam, means in this time. And so the men are Lars' rule. The men are Israelites, but the women are ovaries. The Hebrew is the ovaries. But this is actually just the ing, and we see it in the Egyptian, but the ways Lars is rulings by them in that day. This rulings by them. Whoever fought and won the crown of laurel, Lars is a rulings by them. And so that's why you'll see that this just plain NGS, sometimes they'll say it means distress, sometimes it's the oppressed, and sometimes it's the oppressors. They'll mix it all up, and they'll give it 10 different word numbers. I think everything from around 60 to 70. They'll scatter a bunch of words in there. You see it here, and not they do hear the voice of the oppressor. And it's the callings, and the same is what they'll say is name, SM, the name of callings. But it's coming from this letter right here, and this is the NG, and they're going to ignore it. And they say that this is the Ka, but this is also the Nig. This is the NG, this is the NG, and this is the K, K-I-N-G, the King Nig. You see here, this is the king, Niggur, N-G-U-R. This is the where, U-R. And so this Nig is coming from right here. This is a thief. And they're getting this ka from this Nig here, but it's the N-G. And this is thieving. And so when you got a little young bull, he's up in your patch, he is thieving. He's trying to take your cows. And so that's what this thieving. He's thieving, and he's going to get nigged. He's going to get this. He's going to get a horn up his ass. Get the hell out of my pasture. You're thieving. And so sometime you'll see this upside down, and it's still king here. This is the Ki. This is the Ng. They're trying to say it's a ka, but they're wrong. They can't read this. And this is what you see in the 3rd page of the Bible in Genesis 3, when the serpent was condemned, and you will crawl on your junk. So this NG is like the GG, the double G in Greek, and it becomes the NG after the A, but this is read as the junk, and you will crawl on your junk the rest of your life. And so what it means is you will crawl on your junk. The serpent become king. Now your junk is underneath. You crawl on your junk. Now you're the king. But the wild bull over here, you'll see he turns his head the other way. And this means, it's a mad. And that's Sam. And that's your word for black. The Sam was the black bull. He was definitely black. And that meant back. You better get back out of my pasture. Get back. Because Sam getting mad. You can tell by the head turned sideways. Sometimes it just be the head, but you see the bull, his horns are always lined up. That's just Nig. This is Sam when they turn the other way. And so you see Nig here several ways. You see this is the N and the G, Nig. And this is the NG. And this is where they tried to change the language, but this is the ka-er, the great bull. It's not the ka-er. It's the nigger, and it means nig, the ruling, and you-are means where. And the way they'll get their readings, they just ignore. They don't read this. They read this sometimes. They don't read this. They read this. They ignore most of the letters in order to try to interpret this. But you see here the nig of, this is the NG, A, and this is the U. It almost looks like the where, but it's just the U. This is King Nig. This is King Niggy. Two of them, Niggy. It means adjective. Niggy's the adjective that means he's the kind that will put a horn up your ass, to get out of his where. Where. This is my city. The city of U-R is where. And this is the king, nigger, chicken, stacker, S-T, and this is occur. King, nigger, chicken, stacker. Chicken, checking, that means I'm going to check you. Don't come over here and try to be king in my field. You will get checked. And I will stack them up, stacker. Every one of them comes, I'm going to check every one of you. You see that in Crocodile Dundee when he reaches down there and grabs a hold of a dick to check and see. I'm just checking, making sure you a woman. Something you have to do these days. So there's nothing wrong with crossbreeding, and making hybrid fruits and plants. You eat them all day long. Most everything you eat is some type of hybrid. But you probably should keep the originals, the heritage to go back to. And so knowing the sale who this on, Gregory, he's the watchman, the watchover of this in the days of Exodus. And so that's what brought me here, is the land of Mu. I was reading about Mu in Deuteronomy, and that sent me to the book of Job, and that explained Mu real well, and that sent me here. But in the days of Exodus, when everybody's out in the street, and Mu is not necessarily a land, but it's a time. Mu is a time and a place, and it's a big old party where everybody was in the street and they were tainting the blood. The emollient is saving the names. To save, the N followed by the E, becomes a V. To save, and the name N-A-I-M. Your name, your N-A-M-E, comes from your father, but your name, N-A-I-M, comes from your mother's side. The name Addie, to save in the blood. The two, not being able is too much. Too much. The too much dynasty. This is the power. A dino is the power stay, to keep it in the family. The dynasty. And too much dynasty of to us. And a seps, E-P-S. And too much dynasty of to a seps onto into mate on oughtn't. Things you shouldn't do. Into mate and oughtn't. And knowing the sale who this on, he Gregory, the egregory of this in days Exodus. Emollient is saving name, a tie-in, too much dynasty. And to keeping it in the family, all that inbreeding causes bad traits to come out. And too much dynasty of two a seps on two into mating oughtn't. And screwing all your sisters and your first cousins is the way that the kings were working before. And so whether any of this goes on or not, there's no telling, because this book is all about the heavens and what the planets and the stars is doing. And the way they talked about them back then is the same as they would the people on the earth. And the kings were also the stars and the groups of stars and the planets visiting. And novorum, and unseen a bitch, what nigga loved 'em. Inlay a clue. And we can see a clue of the ego of Lavisham. And so this is what brought me here. This is that same chapter, and down at 21. And it's talking about in the land of Oz. This is how the book of Job starts. There was a man from the land of Oz. And that's what brought me here. And so CC, oh yes, was much of it. And then backwards and forwards. And this is mu. And it's where your word mud. And they'll say this means red. And it comes from Adam. They'll say means red. But this is M-U-D, and it means the water's connected through, is mud. And so what happened, Mu is my birthday. It's August 29th, and it was the day of the floods. And so the Nile Valley would all flood on the day of Mu. And so everybody, all the farmers, all the shepherds, they would bring their crops and their sheep all up onto the riverbank into Egypt. And CC, yes, was much of it the mud. And when they would come, they would bring mud on their feet. And the mud Adam. That's the people from the land of Mu. So anytime you see the land of Mu that went underwater, it's a yearly thing. Everybody who comes in when the river floods, they come from Mu. They come from the place underwater. And Mu is spelt with 3 N's in Egypt. And 1 N is N, and 2 N's is Ni, and 3 N's is Mu. And that means high water. The highest water point is Mu. And so the land of Mu, people who come from the land of Mu, means they come from their places underwater right now. And the mud Adam. They bringing in the mud. And CC was much of it mud Adam, just but abort. I And this is always the same word with one letter difference, and always read the first one. And aborts, to get out of the flooded land. And aborts, outs, O-U-T-S, the outs come. And aborts, outs come. Kill, illicit. A kill, to make a kill means to get that ass, And a kill, illicit, to bear, and backwards, to suck us. Sucky is worldwide. It means fuck everywhere else in the world except America. To suck us. To screw. To screwatory. The screwatory. You shall become drunk and make yourself naked. The screwatory. A tory is the place where things are made. A factory, fact, to create. Tory, the place where it's being created. The screwatory. You shall become drunk and make yourself naked. So this getting long. I want to show y'all one more thing before I go. And so it appears here up at Z at 7th that we're brighter herd Nazarites. A Nazarite is somebody from Nazareth. That's where they say Jesus was from, And we're brighter herd Nazarites than snow and whiter than milk. And we're more ruddy. You see that ad moo here. And that's another word meaning red, And the Nazarites, they were bright and they were white and red in body and blue and sapphire. They were red, white, and blue at first, was the Nazarites. And then they became, and now is blacker than soot. Their appearance not, they go unrecognized. So depending on when you came from Nazareth, you might have been black at one time, or you might have been red, white, and blue. And one more thing, over here in Job 3, and may those curse it who curse the day, those who are ready to rouse Leviathan. Somebody told me one time that Leviathan is real. It's a sea monster. No, Leviathan is a trout. A trouser trout is a Leviathan. And those who are ready to arouse Leviathan, they hotted them. Hotted means she done took off her panties. Hotted. H-O-T-I-D. Hotted. I am. Hotted them. Where's your panties, girl? Oh, it was hot. I hotted them. The hotted them in oral. O-R. Second R reads as a I-L. The oral. Invite. Like an invite of vitin. And hotted them oral vitin. That means she done took her panties off, got her legs spread, and pointing down the oral vitin. And all together, that's if be. And the V reading over here, if be very. Very meaning going to just about anybody. If be very I am backwards. I am and why, meaning how or who. And if be very how hotted oral vitin. Every word has been mistranslated. They didn't interpret none of the Bible right. Nobody wanted you to know what this is talking about. So I'm going to leave a comment here from a backup channel just down below here, and you can subscribe to that one. In case YouTube doesn't like anything I'm saying on my main channel here, I might have to go to the backup again. But I've been reading a lot the past month. I haven't made a lot of movies, but I've been reading a lot. And most of it is about what I've been talking about today. And it's all in the book of Job a lot and Deuteronomy. And I believe I'm going to read all the Lamentations again and see what else I can pick up on that. And it's huge clues when they put everything in alphabetical order, because it gives you an idea of what they're talking about. You know that the main subject here is the N word. The main subject here is the S word. and it'll be all 5 chapters will be like this. And in chapter 3 it'll be 3 A words, and it'll be 3 B words. It'll start with the B and the B and the B, and it'll go to the G, 3 G's. So the big clues like this give a lot of help on interpreting this. I'm gonna cut this off here. Have a good day.